Hello, my name is Rodney Conner, and I'm from the TechSpot Network, and I have another review for you, this time for the LG G3 Vigor. This is I guess we call the cheaper, younger cousin of the LG G3. I received this phone, and I wasn't sure what exactly to expect. When I first saw it, I thought, well, gee, that's just the G3, but then I realized, oh, wait, it's smaller. And I started looking up some information because when I received this phone, I was quite clueless as to what I was expecting. And so I looked up some info. I mean, obviously I could tell it was smaller. Comparatively, actually, the LG G3 Vigor is kind of like, for those that are semi-familiar with the iPhone, the newest, or the second most recent iPhone release. Apple did an iPhone 5S, and then they also did a iPhone 5C. This would be the equivalent of the 5C. It's that cheaper, younger cousin that is comparatively equivalent with a few adjustments to make it cheaper for the cheaper consumer. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the cheaper consumer, just the more money conscious, I should say. But anyway, I was speaking of size, 5-inch screen versus the regular G3 is a 5.5-inch screen. That obviously affects resolution. This screen here is actually 1280 or 720 by 1280, making it an HD screen. Only having 294 pixels per inch in there, and I say only, like, gosh, that's bad. I say only because comparatively to the G3, which is a 1440 by 2560 resolution, which that to most people realize that is a Ultra HD or 2K, as it's been deemed. They managed to squeeze 538 pixels per inch in there, so it is comparatively smaller as far as that. Let's say, since we're talking about resolutions and such, the camera did take a hit as well. The normal G3, 13 megapixel. Let's just go through the whole stats. It had 13 megapixels. It had the double LED flash. It had 8 times zoom capability. Could record in 4K with a little bit of a third-party driver, and it was still a 30 frames per second video compared to an 8 megapixel camera, a single LED flash, and it records in 1080p. Don't even have my numbers right. 1080p, 30 frames per second video, only a 4 times zoom. Lesser capabilities, however, most people realize 8 megapixel cameras are still very capable. When I did my typical video and photo tests, unfortunately, when I had the LG G3, it's been a while. It was in the peak of summer where everything was nice and bright and beautiful, and unfortunately, we've shifted into fall now. It's hard to get a comparative picture. I tried my best, and I put them side to side, and I've already had technical problems recording this once, so I decided I'm just going to go straight at it and get the details out and do that type of review this time. But comparatively, they were very close. A little less color clarity, but again, that's why I mentioned there was a little less color to be shown, just because it's fall now. Although it was a really beautiful tree. I found a tree that was every shade of fall. The power behind this baby. It is still the Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, just like the G3, except the G3 was an 801 processor, which puts out roughly 2.5 gigahertz processing speed. This one is just the Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 processor, putting out 1.2 gigahertz. They are both quad-core, I should say. Or, I'm sorry, this one's a quad-core, 1.2. And the regular G3 is a dual-core 801 processor, which is a 2.5 gigahertz. So, kind of different. In the end, they process close to the same capacity. 1 gigabyte of RAM versus 3 gigabytes on the higher model of the regular G3. Sorry, apparently I've got all kinds of lunch coming up to me. I've got my stats all over the place, so I apologize if I'm bouncing back and forth. I will mention some features that are on here, not on the G3, or missing from here and on the G3. First off, on the spec sheet, the LG G3 Vigor, which I didn't have the opportunity to test just because of the fact mostly that I'm not a regular Android user. Now, the G3 Vigor comes with what's called HD voice, a super high a super highly clear call. If I can get that out. It does not list that on the regular G3. However, this took a hit. The Vigor took a few software hits for camera capabilities. There's no burst mode, for example. A couple other small things. There is still the typical things that I mentioned in my G3 video that I absolutely love, like the gesture shutter is what they called it. You know, where you do a certain gesture and it actually recognizes that and takes a picture. Or the voice shutter. Those are still on here, so it didn't lose a lot of things. It just lost some things that I assume are just process power limited. Some of the other details behind this phone, let's see, we'll just go down the stats list. As far as Wi-Fi, this baby still has most capabilities. It only lost one. To explain, for the G3, it came with an 802.11 card capable of doing both 802.11a, b, g, n, and the newest AC. AC is all we lost on the Vigor. Not a big deal because it's still a new technology, still being adopted. The battery didn't lose much there either. I think it was mostly just because of the size of the device and what room we had to put in it. There was a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in the G3, giving the user approximately 21 hours talk time, at least the first day anyway. This one here, the Vigor 2,540 milliamp hour battery, still giving you 17.5 hours talk time. Not a huge loss. And again, I think that's just space-wise as far as what they could fit into the actual device. You did take a small hit, well, actually moderately large hit, depending on what you store on your phone as far as actual storage. The Vigor is up to 8 gigabytes of internal storage and up to 32 gigabytes on an external micro SD card. Compared to the G3, the regular G3, you had up to 32 gigabytes internal memory and up to 128 gigabytes on a micro SD card. Big difference. And I mean, the phone in general it still performs just like the G3. I knew I had the G3 in my hand. Well, just besides the fact that it actually says G3, it still behaved just like it. I couldn't really get it to slow down. The video looked just as good. Maybe I just didn't test it enough. I don't know. Video playback, both on like a Wi-Fi through YouTube and both through a recorded video, all looked great. The same test that I always do. I love that knock code, by the way. Same thing. I mentioned that in the G3 video. Is I noticed that it's real hard to get the. I can't slow down the launcher. I think that's what it's called. I'm sorry. That's showing my ignorance still for the Android system. But you know, as I'm browsing through the phone, I mean, it is absolutely streamlined. No pause whatsoever. It doesn't have to stop and think about anything you are asking it to do to show you. The biggest difference, I think, for me, I mentioned in the beginning, the money-conscious part. This phone here, you can get, sorry, got to get it the actual frame there. You can get this on a 2-year contract for $49.99. That's pretty darn cheap for a still very capable LG smartphone. I've given my disclaimer before. LG is a favorite brand of mine. $334.99 brand new, no contract. That is just above the, well, okay, I can't say just above, but it's still in an affordable range. Compared to the regular G3 phone, $199.99 for a 2-year contract, $579.99 for a brand new out-of-contract phone. Huge difference. Yes, there is a different phone, but I say it still is quite capable. I'm very impressed with the LG G3 family, including the LG G3 Vigor, and I would also, as I said for the G3, I'd give it a buy. I think that's it for this review. I apologize it not being as detailed as usual. I've already had a couple of glitches with this recording once, and I'm trying to keep it simple this time so I can just get this out and get it done and let the fine lady at AT&T have this back so someone else can review it. It was just released in September, so it's got a lot of users waiting to review. My name is Rodney Conner. I'm from the TechSpot Network. Check us out at TechSpotVcast.com, PodcastShark.com, and if you have any questions, email me. Contact us at TechSpotVcast.com.